the main thing I want this podcast to be about, okay, is about us being friends, all right, and we fucking love guns.
And welcome to the 2A Brotherhood podcast.
Hey.
Quote of the day: the family is the smallest but most precious unit in the building of a state.
Wasn't the intro dope?
No. And we have a special guest on tonight. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. My name is Colin. I am the owner of ANCHORPOINT Holsters. We are a custom Kydex holster company out of Albany, Oregon. Believe it or not, there are pew-pew related companies in Oregon. We do concealed carry, competition holsters, level 2 retention holsters, hunting rigs, and a lot more that we are planning on doing in the future. So,
nice. Oh yeah, brother!
All right.
Amazing. Yep.
So Austin butchered the intro. He forgot the advertisements. All right, go follow us on TikTok. Go follow us on X.
You got too happy.
Yeah. You got a good quote. That's why. And go follow us on Instagram. Beginning of next year, we're going to have a website. We're going to have merchandise. We're going to be on every single platform for podcasting that's out there as far as we know. So, yeah. There's some merch right there. We got the hat. Got the hat. Yeah.
Get yours today.
No, not today. It's not ready.
I know. It's not. If you ask nicely. Pre-order it. Yeah. So you guys just recently got, picked up some equipment from ANCHORPOINT, didn't you? Why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah, I mean, we went and did training with Josh Morgan last weekend. It was awesome. It was the first time that we were able to find training that included movement, and it was great. It was just like shooting with friends. You know what I mean? He was tough on us, but at the same time nice. You know. And apparently old Dimitri and old Rob and old Austin are gone, and the new Dimitri and new Rob and new Austin are here.
Was there like a rite of passage at the end of training or something?
No, it was, so that's the one thing he kept telling us while we were doing the training. He's like, all right, old Dimitri used to. So you remember how I blinked my left eye to take over? Well, he's like, well, old Dimitri blinked his eye. New Dimitri shoots with both eyes open. And I was like, okay.
Don't shoot like a dumbass.
And then as soon as it started moving around a little bit, but we'll get there.
Yeah. It was very informative. I learned a lot, honestly. I learned more than I expected to learn, so I'm very, very grateful for all that. My issue was shooting to the left, and he was helping me with improving that. Yeah. And I feel like I made big strides in that, thanks to him. So.
Mm-hmm. My issue was shooting at one fucking target.
But the holsters were awesome. When we were moving around, nothing jiggled. You know what I mean? Nothing fell out while we were running. So they did their job. Yeah.
That's good. It's good to hear.
So what kind of inspired you to start the company? Like what is your mission, or your mission statement?
Yeah, so it's kind of a interesting story. So I kind of have to go back to my college days to kind of explain it. So I went to school to be a music director, and I got a degree in music education, and then I'm a man of faith, and I ended up getting called into full-time ministry. So I was a worship pastor for 3 years. And
Wow.
because of the debilitating debt that student loans accrue in one's life, I had to. I don't know if any of you guys have worked in ministry at all, but ministry does not pay super great, and so one thing I kind of had to do was find something on the side, and I actually drove for Uber Eats for and this was like the height of COVID, like.
Mm-hmm.
We're like in it, in the middle of it. I got hired on my very first full-time pastoral position in the middle of COVID, which was crazy. But driving Uber Eats, that meant that there was a lot of people ordering food because they couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And so it was making a good amount of money. But then after a little bit, I think this was back. So I drove Uber Eats for like 2 years. And it made a decent amount of money, but then like once COVID kind of started dying off, Uber, the company, stopped like offering better promotions and stuff, so it wasn't making very much money. And I was like, man, I need to find something to do on the side that's like not killing my car, not killing my body, because I was doing my full-time job, but then I was spending weekends driving for like 12 hours at a time. Yeah, it was rough. And I was living up in Portland, Oregon, which is a huge metro area. So lots and lots of driving. And I also happened to need a holster for myself. I had just gotten a new firearm, and also, I don't know. I know we're on YouTube. I don't know if like there's like sticky words or anything that we're not
Just
supposed
saying,
to say.
we don't care about YouTube.
Okay. Okay. I wanted to
Fuck
respect that and make sure. Anyway, so I just got a new Glock, and so I needed a holster for it, and but I didn't have the money for it. So what I wanted was a nice outside the waistband holster with like decent retention. But the only options out there for what I wanted were like at least $150, and I just didn't have the money for it. And so I looked up a YouTube video, and I literally typed in YouTube how to make a Kydex holster, and this channel came up. I'll plug him. His name's FoulTac Unlimited on YouTube. I kind of give a lot of my where I'm at right now and that first like 1 to 2 years of what I was doing as a builder, a lot to him. So I doubt he will ever see this, but thank you for that. But he just had a tutorial video on like what to purchase, what basic necessities you needed to be able to make a holster. And so I bought all those things. I think I put in like $50 into it, and I made myself the crappiest holster that you will ever see on the face of the earth. But it worked. It retained. Yep, that's his website. It retained the gun like I needed it to. I was kind of a baby in the holster space, and so I didn't really know what a good holster was. And so I just was like, yeah, it works. And so I showed it to a buddy of mine at my church, and he was like, hey, I need a holster. Did you make this? And I was like, yeah, but like I just did a one-off. Like I just needed a holster for my own gun. And he's like, well, I need a holster. Do you think you can make me one? And I was like, well, I had bought like foam, so we can get into this later, but I started out with foam pressing. And so I bought some foam, and then I bought I think I used my mom's convection oven that I borrowed or something to heat up the Kydex. So I already had some equipment. And so I was like, yeah, why not? And so I made him a holster. I think he paid me like $5 for it. And he's like, you should start selling these. I think this has some potential. And I was like, nah, man, I don't have time for that. There's no way I could start a business right now. But I made, I think what happened is he told another buddy of his, and that guy needed a holster. And then soon, like more and more people started coming to me in the local area and asking me for holsters. And at the time I was living in Newburgh, Oregon, which is a very woke liberal city and a very woke liberal county. And it's like 40 minutes southwest of Portland, if that gives you any idea. So there wasn't really any manufacturer anywhere near that city. And so people were like, oh, there's a local guy that will build holsters. And so I literally just like started posting. I was like, okay, maybe I can quit Uber Eats, stop killing my car, and I can maybe make enough money what I was making on Uber Eats to substitute and just build holsters. And so I did that, and I ended up getting to the point where I was able to make as much money off of making holsters that I was for Uber Eats. And I was literally like, people were messaging me on Facebook Messenger, and I remember having them like typing out like, send me the answers to these questions. And I would ask, do you want a full sweat shield or not? What color of Kydex do you want? It was super like old tech. I felt like I was stuck in like the 50s or something, with how I was like asking people for orders. But I had no CRM. I had no money to pay for anything like that, and I didn't think it was going to go anywhere, so I wasn't going to pay for it. And so it just kind of took off from there. And I just started as a side hustle, and there's a lot more to that whole story, but that's kind of how it started. And now my whole philosophy, which is changing quite a bit come January, which we can talk about, but you might see this banner right here. This is a little bit of a hint at that. But the whole philosophy now is I want to first and foremost, to fast forward a little bit, I actually left my pastoral position about a year ago now, because I felt like the Lord was telling me to step away from ministry and go into the marketplace and spread the gospel through the marketplace. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to do now. So that's like the first like filter that I use for everything that we're doing, is how can I, not push religion down people's throats like so many companies do. I can think of a couple specific ones that are very popular on Instagram right now, that don't do a great job with that. But how can I like spread the gospel through also like just making quality gear that people want to latch onto? And it's mostly for me, I would rather create a company that people align with value wise, that just happens to make good product. Like I don't want the reason why people come to us is because of our good product. I want it to be because they align with the vision and values of the company. So that's kind of the overall idea. So
that's awesome, dude.
Wow, yeah, man.
What a great, incredible testimony. Do you just use Kydex? What other materials do you use?
It's just Kydex. I'm a firm. There's definitely a place for leather, and I've had a lot of people ask me if I was gonna, get into the leather side of things, but it's really expensive. You kind of have to totally buy a whole new set of tooling for leather work. The stuff that I use for Kydex is not even close to the same as what you use for leather work. It also takes a ton of time. There is a place for it. There's definitely a market for it. But for what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to kind of, spread the company to the masses, and leather just really it doesn't really make that much sense in that respect. Kydex is safer, only because it holds up better to the elements. And good leather workers who know what they're doing can make really solid leather holsters that will work just fine. But the unfortunate part is that most leather holster makers are not good leather holster makers. So, yeah. And as far as nylon goes, don't even talk to me about nylon. Like if you've got an Uncle Mike's rolling around in your garage or something like that, let's get that replaced ASAP.
Also, the thing with leather, it doesn't matter how good of a leather maker you are, like, leather worker you are. Leather just stretches in general, and it wears no matter how good you are. You might make a quality holster, but eventually that holster is going to wear regardless. So
yeah, and Kydex really doesn't, unless you're leaving it in for people that live in like Arizona or Texas or something, or Florida or whatever, that you got like really hot climates. It has a malleable point where once you get up to like 3, so it's a thermoplastic, so it hardens when it's cool, and you can move it around when it's hot. And so if you're in like a hotter part of the country or wherever, then yeah, it can start to wear down. I don't recommend people leave their holsters in their cars, kind of no matter where you're at. I've actually had customers before say like, "Hey, the retention on this doesn't work anymore," and I go to their like order page. I'm like, "Oh, you live in Arizona?" And they're like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "Do you keep your gun in your car with your holster in it?" And he's like, "Yeah, that's where I store my gun." And I'm like, "Well, that's the problem. Like,
You don't have it on you.
the main problem is you don't have that gat on you, but like
Right.
also you're leaving plastic that is it's plastic. Like any kind of plastic you leave in a car in a hot climate like that is gonna melt and warp. So
Mm-hmm.
But in Arizona, in a car, not just any place.
yeah.
It's 10 times hotter there.
And that's very popular in Arizona for people to put their handgun in the glove compartment, because I think before, don't quote me on this, I saw this on Cops many years ago, but apparently before you could get concealed carries readily available, in Arizona you can have a loaded weapon in your car.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Can we get a fact check?
Yeah, please.
Hey, Chad, is this true?
I don't know about that one. That seems kind of crazy. I know there's like, I don't know where it is where you guys are, but like in Oregon, you either have to have your concealed carry license, and I think this is pretty much across the board now. You either have to have your concealed carry license, or you have to keep it stored and locked away, unloaded, either under your car seat, away from any kind of ammunition. In Oregon, this is specifically the crazy part, is you can have it locked in a lockbox under your front seat, but you can't have it loaded. So you have to have like the ammo somewhere else. So you're like, hold on, perpetrator, let me put in my 4-digit code, get my gun out, and then go into my glove box and get my ammo. That's why I tell people, like, if you're worried at all about like having a firearm with you in your car, just get a CHL. It kind of like bypasses all of the weird fine print stuff. You can pretty much go away from any of the crazy stupid laws as long as you have a CHL. So
is that kind of like a CCW, or is there a different?
Yes, concealed handgun license is what it stands for. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Same thing.
And yes, you are allowed to carry a gun inside your car in Arizona.
Without a concealed handgun license or CCW?
Just ride around with it in your lap, man.
Yeah.
That's how we do in Baltimore.
Well, so we're in Maryland. If you don't have a concealed carry, here, your mags can't be loaded. The ammo has to be away from your firearm. So usually the firearms is up front, and then your ammo's in the back. So it's the same thing here.
Yeah.
Hey, hold on. Let me go load my magazine.
Yeah, it's all these arbitrary rules and laws that they put in place to basically infringe on the Second Amendment without actually taking it away. That's all it is.
Don't affect the criminals.
Yeah. So that's why I tell people, like, even because I've had people who are like, well, I have my Second Amendment rights, and I'm like, okay, but the government is also the government, and like the government is doing unconstitutional things left and right. And so like one of your, and I think this goes for the entire country, like one of your responsibilities, I believe, as an American citizen who has the right to own a firearm and bear arms, is to get your concealed carry license, even if you don't carry it every day. Like that it bypasses so many infringements that like all these state governments are putting on people. But if you get your concealed carry license, you can pretty much get away with a lot of other things. And you can open carry without a permit in most places. But that's probably not a great idea. I would not recommend.
I don't suggest open carry. I've seen videos of people standing in line at gas stations and stores, and they get tackled to the ground, and people take their gun and run off.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, you're the first target that they're going to go after.
Yeah.
Like, and the other thing too that I think is insane is when people like brag about the fact that they like are concealed carrying. Like I've had buddies, you know, or just I've talked to people. I've gone to bars.
Brandish it.
I've gone to bars and people are talking about like, hey bro, I got this Glock 19 in the appendix position right now, and it's this color and this, and I'm like, you're not really concealing your gun at that point. Like they know exactly where it is. So yeah,
They want to be cool.
They want to be cool, yeah. And I think as gray man as possible is the best way to go. Because you're already at a disadvantage if you're gonna end up being attacked. Like if someone's coming at you, like they've already had this plan in their head to do it. So take away one more thing for them to know. If you can take away one more piece of detail that they could have before they attack, then that's the best. So
what do you think about keeping around in the chamber?
Oh man, I absolutely. So my father-in-law, if he's watching this, Mark, I love you. He carries a LCP. He pocket carries an LCP with no round in the chamber. And I call the LCPs the lady carry pistols. But his whole philosophy behind it is it's kind of the same as like what most people have, is like, I'll have enough time to rack one, you know, in the chamber. And, you know, there have been studies and videos of people like with slow motion cameras, like showing the time difference from pulling and shooting when you have one in the chamber versus not having one in the chamber at all. And it's a drastic difference. And when in a life threatening situation, milliseconds matter. Like it's nothing to play around with. And honestly, I think the people who don't carry one in the chamber, they're either just ignorant to proper training, or they are lazy and don't want to train to be able to, you know, handle a situation with one in the chamber. Because like if you have proper training and you've done reps and have actually like not just gone out and planked at pop cans, but you've actually like carried a holster in the position that you carry it on a daily, and you've actually repped pulling it out and live firing it, then to be honest, like I think it's probably safer to have you not carry one in the chamber. And oftentimes there's a lot of those people. I would say sometimes it's safer to not carry a gun at all. If you're not properly trained and you don't know, and I'm not saying you have to be like a spec ops, you know, soldier or whatever to be able to carry a gun, but I think you need to, you know your basic firearm mechanics and how to handle a gun and how to not shoot yourself in the leg when you're drawing your pistol. Yeah, basic firearm safety. There's this one guy, this video that I saw. It kind of went around the internet for a while, but he was like in the lobby of this Little Caesars, and you could tell that he was carrying a gun in his pocket. You could tell he wasn't carrying a holster with it at all. And he for sure had one in the chamber. And he like is standing in line with his hands in his pocket waiting for his pizza. And
I've seen that video. I know exactly what video you're talking about.
Yeah, and all of a sudden you see this bang, and then you see this like pool of blood forming under his leg, and he's like playing it off like, what was that? That was crazy. Did you guys hear that? And like the employees are like, did you just shoot yourself? Like, so I think you need to have the proper training. But I also think if you do have the proper training and you're still not carrying one in the chamber, then, you know, maybe rethink your choices there.
Josh, can you find that video?
He was actually a DoorDasher. I think he was like a DoorDasher Uber Eats guy. He was picking up a delivery, and it was in like a pizza place. It's like some grainy surveillance video, and he's playing it off, and everyone's just kind of like looking like, what was that? And then went back to work. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, and he's like,
he deliver the pizza though.
Yeah.
Like,
did he?
I think he went, delivered the pizza, then drove himself to the hospital.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
He still got that tip money though.
Yeah.
I just think, man, like if you're, think about the philosophy and the reason why you're carrying a gun. Like there are some people that carry a gun just because they like can, which is like, that's cool. Like, yeah, we have the rights to do that, which is great. But like, why exactly are you carrying a gun? I carry a gun because I want to protect the lives of my wife and child and those around me. That is the reason why I carry a gun, and for myself. And if that is your reason, if that's your purpose, then you should do everything you can to your possibility to the extent of your training to make defending those people the most effective. And if you're not carrying one in the chamber, I don't know, that just seems like a hurdle that is unnecessary to have to hop over.
Yeah, when I first started carrying, my wife was iffy about having one in the chamber, and I spoke to a bunch of the people that we had on the podcast and stuff like that, and I would also send her videos about when people didn't have one in the chamber and how much it hindered them in like life-threatening situations. And then now she's like, okay, good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I got I think I got the video. No,
I have it right here.
Oh, you have it?
Come on, the evil genius got it.
Yeah, this is the one.
Oh,
so funny.
Is it the camo pant guy?
Yeah.
Of course. Don't he look like that type?
He's like, I don't know. He looked outside like,
what was that?
He kind of looks like Mr. K.
I have no clue.
you can shoot yourself.
Like, I don't know. He's in the door. I guess so.
Dude.
That was loud for being the door. Yeah. What was it?
That was loud for being the door.
Yeah.
God damn.
Bro, his adrenaline is at like peak right now. And that's how he's able to get to that conversation. And I think at the end of it, yeah, you could see he's kind of like, you can tell he's in pain.
I think you can see the blood.
Oh, that was the beginning. Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to tell.
Yeah.
Dude, that is wild. I know you guys. Have you seen the one where I think it's like he's a police officer, like he's instructing a bunch of civilians on gun safety, and he's telling them, "I'm the only one authorized to hold this firearm." And then he has
children, dude,
in the middle of class.
Yeah.
Did you see the one
recently? Did you see the one recently? I think it was a Swedish gun range or something, where they were like training on shotguns, and one of the like range officers goes around and like there's some older dude who's like at the class. He's not one of the ROs, and he's standing right next to him, and he ends up discharging the RO discharging a shotgun into this old dude's hip.
Oh
yeah, it's crazy. That started circling the internet like a week ago, I think. But
I think I've seen that, and the one man just dropped.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's basic firearm safety is not common knowledge. Like it's insane. So
I don't know why.
Show people, but
I don't know why the first instinct for every single person is to put their finger on the trigger and hold it or look at it, dude.
Video games, Nerf guns, like I mean, think about like even like my 2-year-old son. Sometimes he'll do like finger guns, and he does this, and it's like that's just kind of a natural thing, I guess. I don't know.
To put people in danger.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put you and everybody in this room in danger.
Yeah. First thing they do is start flagging everybody. Like, whoa,
Yeah,
this is so
bro.
cool.
The first, I know my mom's watching this because she said she was gonna hop on tonight, so I'm gonna call her out a little bit. But the first time I took her to shoot a gun, my dad's a 14-time felon, so he hasn't had a gun in the house ever. So she's like super not like around guns at all. But the first time I ever took her shooting, I made the mistake, and for everybody out there who takes people shooting for the first time, please only put 1 round in the chamber if it's their first time ever shooting a gun. Do not put more than 1 round in the chamber. I made the mistake of putting like 3 or 4 in the chamber, and my dad and I are like standing behind her where she's shooting, and I'm like helping her out, like helping her to get a good form and stuff. And I was like, all right, you're good to go. You've done all your safety checks. There's a round in the chamber. Go ahead and pull the trigger. And so she pulls it, and she's like in awe of what just happened. And my dad are back here. My dad and I are back here, and she goes, "Whoa, that's crazy! That was super cool." And dude, I cannot tell you, that's probably the fastest I've ever ran in my entire life. was to get up there and like perform some mad like safety officer stuff, because that was crazy. We haven't gone shooting with her since, so
I don't blame you.
Nice.
Yeah.
Lose Austin. Oh, I think we might have lost Austin. So when did you say you started the company?
2022. It was late January 2022. Yeah.
Did you notice any like trends with like the like more people buying holsters? Did you notice any like peak because of like COVID or anything like that?
Like
towards that, I kind of see like while it was happening, there was like a uptrend in people firearm purchases and stuff. And
well, to give you guys an example, we had a measure here in Oregon during it was either during our primaries or it was during our midterms. I can't remember which it was. I think it would have had to have been our midterms because it was after I started the company. But there's a measure 114, which is currently still in legislation, that basically, so I don't know if you guys know much about like gun control laws in California or Washington, but they're really bad. They're really, really bad. Like some of the worst ever. Oregon got this one measure that would limit us to 10 rounds. It would require a firearm purchasing permit. It would require state not state funded training, but it would require official state training to be able to purchase a firearm. So basically, in order to get your purchasing permit, you have to go through the state to be able to train, to be able to get your purchase permit, and then you can purchase a gun from there. Crazy hyper infringement stuff. And when that measure came out, the gun purchases, we were at, I think at the time, our largest background check list was at like, I don't know, 10,000 on the wait list. During that measure, we hit like 36,000.
Dang.
So we broke records during measure 114. So yeah, a lot of firearm purchases post COVID. I think a lot of people lost a lot of trust in the institutions, and it was kind of a scary time. And there were a lot of people buying guns, which is good for us because if you have guns, then you need a holster. So I even at one point, I think so measure 114 officially passed December 7th of that year, I think. But then it got kicked back to one of the higher courts, and now it's in legislation again. And so it never actually like got pushed through. But at one point I told people in Oregon, if they had purchased a gun post measure 114, and a lot of people were doing Brady law stuff. So that's where you can like get your gun within 3 days if the state takes too long to file the background check. I basically was giving out discounts left and right for holsters if people had purchased guns during 114 because it was wild. But yeah, I think the I'd be interested to see what the data is even just recently with the recent election, to see how many gun purchases were made for both sides of the aisle, honestly. But yeah, I think there was definitely a trend up during the time when we started the company, but that wasn't necessarily a factor into why we started. It just happened to be kind of an added benefit.
Wow. Right on.
So
good timing, though, right?
Yeah,
God's
it's kind of like
always perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like with T-Rex Arms. They really started getting big when they did armor, like during like the start of 2020, like 2019-ish, 2020. I think they started doing armor in 2018, 2019, and then COVID happened, and then people just like, it's kind of like the toilet paper crisis, right? Like people just went insane, and that's what bumped their popularity, and that's kind of why they're where they're at now. Because of the armor game, which is kind of cool. Unfortunately, we didn't quite get that big, but it definitely helped.
Shit, you big enough, man.
Right?
Right.
You said you moved into a new facility, right?
So it's always been out of a residence, except for like right now I'm in my garage. The shop has always kind of been our garage. But there was a period of time where I was like borrowing a buddy's landscaping shop, and literally this was when I first started the company, because I was there. Oh, the reason why I did it was because when I started the company, my wife and I were living in an apartment, so I didn't have like anywhere to put equipment or anything. I even played with the idea of putting like dust ventilation outside of our apartment window, so I could do it in our like little dining area. But I was like, I don't want to deal with neighbors and stuff. So I had a buddy who I paid him $100 a month, and he let me use an 8-foot table to put a bandsaw and a belt sander and the foam press that I built. And so I started there, and then after that, we ended up moving into 400 square feet because we got offered to live in this super small place for free, and we saved a bunch of money doing that. They also happen to have a shed in their backyard that we were able to use for a while. Super small. It was only like maybe 4 feet bigger than what I was using before. And then we moved into a house, and I had a little 8x10 garage that I used. And then we just recently moved into this house last December, and it's a 10x20. So it's an okay space. There's a lot that I want to do. Like I want to get a CNC machine at some point, there's no way that's going to fit in here. What's
a CNC machine?
It is I'm blanking on what CNC actually stands for, so that's funny. But it's a like router that allows you to have you guys ever like been scrolling and seeing those videos of like these super fast like router bits like cutting things?
I know what it is. I do a lot of metal work, so I know what it is.
Like
yeah. But, yeah.
Okay, so a lot of guys will use CNC for making molds, or you can use them to trim holsters out. So right now, I do all the trimming and shaping by hand. Every single holster I trim and shape and fold by hand. But what I could do with a CNC router is I could actually program it to where I'd put the vacuum pressed shell onto the CNC table, and then the router could just trim it for me. Would be way faster and would make production a lot better. But yeah, it's just not really in the cards at the moment.
More personal when you do it by hand.
For sure, yeah. And that's honestly, that's a big reason why the business kind of grew, was because, and I made a lot of mistakes in the very beginning, but I was doing, let's see, I don't know where you guys want to go with this, or like how much in detail you guys want to go into it, but
yeah.
Okay.
So talk about it, dude.
Whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
Okay. So I kind of, when the business started, after I like officially like made it a business, and like this was kind of after that like Facebook thing where I was just like helping out a couple people, and I was like, okay, I want to make this a side hustle and try to run it as a business. The thing that I thought would kind of set me apart was I was looking at all these big companies like T-Rex and G-Code and Safariland and Holster, whatever. You can name a bunch of those bigger companies. And I noticed a lot of the times that their offering for like firearm configurations and like different holsters was not kind of shockingly low. And so my whole thing was like they do all the Glocks and the SIGs and, you know, Shadow Systems, which is just Glock, all the basics, Smith & Wessons and stuff, but they didn't have stuff like the Beretta M9A4s, the SIG PT29s, like the really kind of niche guns they didn't have offerings for. And I kept having people asking me, hey, I cannot find a holster for this anywhere. I've even looked at the bigger companies and they don't even offer them. Is there any way you can help me out? And so my brain was like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a custom holster company and really mean it, like totally custom. If you have a holster, or if you have a gun that you cannot find a holster for, I'm gonna get you a holster for it before the big guys can. And that was kind of my whole business model. And so what I ended up doing, which I learned a lot from doing this. Looking back, I probably wouldn't have done it again. But what I ended up doing is there was this, so there's this kind of like standardized holster mold wholesaler that you can get molds from, and specifically for foam pressing. So foam pressing and vacuum pressing are two different processes. Foam pressing, you take like 1-inch foam that you heat up, and once it gets hot enough, you can squish it, and then you heat up the Kydex, and then you fold the Kydex over the mold, and then you squish the foam over the holster, and then it takes like 15 minutes to set, and then you pull it out of the press. So this, versus vacuum pressing, you literally have a vacuum form mold. You suck a vacuum underneath the Kydex, and then that sucks down over the Kydex. It takes like 10 seconds. So this company, they sell pretty much exclusively foam press molds. And so I was like, what I did is I built a website out. It was the jankiest website ever. I was sending out invoices through QuickBooks instead of actually having people place orders on the website. So they would like send me messages, and I would like send them an invoice based off of what I thought I should charge. It would take that they would pay the invoice, and then it would take like 2 weeks for me to get paid. And it was, I had to take so much money out of pocket from my like personal bank accounts and stuff, which sucked. But that's kind of what you have to do when you're starting a business. But what I ended up doing is I posted on my website every single mold that I could find on that wholesaler website. I did not have these molds in my shop. So what happened is people were like, oh, this guy can make holsters for all of these random weird guns that I can't find anywhere else. And so they would place an order, and I would send them an invoice or whatever. Eventually I got to the point where people could actually place orders and have an e-commerce platform. But they'd be placing orders, and I didn't have the molds in-house yet to make the holsters for them. So I would just use the money that I made from them buying the holster, and I used that to pay for the mold. I was like, okay, that could kind of work. You know, you pay for the mold one time, and then you make your money back as you get more orders. But the issue with that is I would get like, man, I think the number is I ended up buying 100. I had like 126 different molds or something like that. Something crazy. It was like $12,000 in molds that I ended up purchasing over like a year and a half.
My goodness.
Yeah. I'm still trying to sell a lot of those. So if you're a holster maker and you want to get started, I've got it like
with the funky guns.
What's the craziest gun you ever made a holster for?
Oh man. It was a shoot, I'm blanking on the name of it. The really, really long revolver, the really huge Smith & Wesson.
500?
The Clint Eastwood?
Yeah.
I made a 2-piece holster that was a transparent front with an orange back. And I actually had to use, so my foam press can only handle, I want to say like 12 inches by 15 inches. I had to use my like kitchen oven inside my house. Like I brought some equipment into my house to press that holster. Yeah, it was crazy. My wife was like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm trying to make us money. Calm down." But yeah, so stuff like that where I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to make all this money. I'm going to make my money back, buy these molds, and then make my money back on the molds. But like 90% of the molds that I purchased, only one person ever bought a holster for them. And so I didn't make any profit. In fact, there are often times where in the beginning of the business, I would sell inside the waistband holster for like $60, maybe $55. And all these molds cost me $75 a piece. And so I'm making the money from the order, having to spend another $10 or $15 on the mold, plus the Kydex, plus the hardware, plus if you factor in labor cost. So I was going in the red like crazy. Fast forward to, I want to say January, February this year, I decided to cut all of my foam pressed order or holster configurations and go strictly to vacuum pressing. Because vacuum pressing, to give you an example of time, last year I did a 40% off sale. I did it this year. I don't know if you guys saw that, but I did a 40% off sale where it was like a week worth of sales where every day was a different holster model. And it was a big hit, like super good sale. We made like 20 grand on it. It was awesome. But I was doing foam press at that time. And after the week went by and I kind of like reevaluated after the dust settled and I reevaluated everything. I did the math on how much time it was going to take me personally based off of how efficient I was at the time. And it ended up being like 28 weeks worth of work nonstop to get all those orders fulfilled. And that's because with a foam pressed holster, especially in the beginning, you have to block out all of the controls with like different pieces of wood or metal or anything that you can find that will make sure you create those channels in the holster for all of your controls to pass through. And you have to block every single one of those out by hand every single time. And so the blocking process would take like anywhere between 10 minutes, depending on if it was a simple holster, up to like 2 hours. And then you would press it, which you have to wait another 15 to 20 minutes for the press to finish. And then after that, you have to trim it out and buff it and sand it and finish it, put hardware onto it. So a foam pressed holster, kind of a basic one, would probably take me 3 to 4 hours for one holster. Whereas a vacuum press holster, I think my record is like 6 minutes. So it's wow. A big difference. Yeah,
that's a huge difference.
Huge difference. And I cut back a lot of what I offered. And at first I was like, man, I'm not going to get any orders because I was kind of known as the guy that would do all the custom stuff and I wasn't going to get any orders. And so I was a little concerned by that, but like I was absolutely killing myself. I was working another job. This was on top of my full-time ministry job. And I was working a part-time security detail in Portland and running a business and having a wife and a 1-year-old son. And so like having a
You're
business,
still married, right?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, so you made it through, man. You made it through.
Made it through. But having to deal with, and if anybody's listening and they've built holsters before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There were days in the beginning where I would go into the shop. I would be working on one order for 15 hours and walk out and get no progress done. Jeez. Because I was just learning, you know? And I'm honestly, I don't regret anything. And I look back on those days that were super, super hard. And I'm just thankful because now that I'm more efficient, I'm kind of using the more industry standard manufacturing process. I think I have a little bit of a one-up on a lot of the guys because I started with foam pressing and I was able to kind of work through a lot of the troubleshooting and work through a lot of issues.
You know the struggle.
Yeah, I know the struggle. There's a lot of holster makers and there's, I don't give anybody any crap for starting with vacuum pressing. Like I just didn't have the money to start with all that equipment, because to start with vacuum pressing, it's like about $1,000 in total, and I didn't have the money. But now when I run into issues with holsters now, I can kind of look back to the foam pressing days, and I can be like, oh, this is what I did with the foam press. I know exactly how to fix this problem. Or if there's like a retention issue on a holster for whatever reason, I know exactly how to fix it, instead of like having to troubleshoot in that moment. I've already done all that. So yeah, it was tough, man. It was some of the hardest work I've ever had to do. But we get put through trials to strengthen us and to make us better. So,
do you also make like sheath for knives?
Man.
Yeah, I definitely do. There's actually a spot on the website where you can go to. I think it's the other gear tab, and the drop down will show custom blade sheets, and you can submit like it's basically just a contact form. Like, you don't purchase anything yet on the website. You just kind of tell me, like, because knives are so custom. There's no, unless you're like I don't have molds for those. So you can go in, you can tell me what you have, what you're looking for, and then I can kind of like invoice you and tell you and give you a quote. And then I've had people send me blades. I've had people drop blades off with me to make sheaths for them. So, and every once in a while I do some firearm drop-offs for local people, just because I want to like help out my personal community, or if they're like returning customers too. But it's mostly vacuum press stuff, because I'm really trying to scale this thing, and you got to be really efficient if you want to scale to the point where it's a full-time job. So.
Wow. Go ahead.
I thought Austin was going to say something.
No. Sorry, my kid, she was crying for me, so I had to go console her real quick. Yeah.
How dare you be a good father?
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Terrible.
So are you still involved in any ministry work?
Yeah.
You volunteer at the church?
Yeah. So about a year ago is when we stepped down, and we really felt. So Albany is where I grew up. This is where I was born in Lebanon, which is like 20 minutes away from Albany, but Albany is where I grew up. It's where I met my wife. I've lived here the longest. And when my wife and I got married when we were living in Albany. When my wife and I moved to Newburgh to take my ministry position, that was the reason why I moved there. We kind of sworn off Albany, and we're not never, but like we really don't see a reason to come back here. And when we came back, it was because we really felt like the Lord was drawing us back to this city for whatever reason. It was super unclear. We just knew that that's what we were supposed to do, and so that's why we stepped down. And then we took about a 6-month pause from serving, just to kind of like reset, because I had been involved in ministry for like 20 of the 27 years that I've been alive. And so it was kind of time to take a pause. I've burnt out like 3 or 4 times in church ministry before. And so we took a break, and then about 6 months after we moved back here, we were asked to help plant a church. And so we kind of felt like that was somewhat of a prompting by the Holy Spirit to tell us to get back into ministry. And so currently we are now in the process of a church plant. We planted like end of September, I think. So it's been a month or so since we started. But yeah, I'm the volunteer worship pastor at that church now, and my wife helps in the production team. So yeah, serving. Again, from a biblical perspective, serving in the church is a necessity if you're a Christ follower, and so that's something that was never going to go away. We just kind of took a break for a little bit to refocus. But yeah, I personally find it difficult not to serve. So yeah, still heavily involved.
Very nice. Are you do you play guitar, piano, or you just sing?
Yeah, I lead from guitar. I When I was going to school, I was going to be a band director, and so I kind of had to teach myself like every instrument under the sun. Um, so I can play. I can play every instrument on like a basic worship stage. Um, I can play piano kind of just enough to get by, but I definitely don't prefer it. So acoustic is my bread and butter. So
Nice, yeah. Church playing is it's also a pretty difficult thing to do. I just
yeah,
started last year, right around this time last year. I started attending a church that had like just moved into the building like 2 weeks before I went, and I immediately started volunteering, and so I got to kind of see what it's like for a church that is just getting started in a new area of San Antonio and everything. So yeah,
yeah,
it was very difficult, but it's cool to be a part of that kind of thing.
yeah. I've come from. I was the worship intern at like what we would call our mega church here in Albany, um, having like 2,000 people a Sunday or something like that.
Wow.
I came from being the intern there to then being the worship pastor at my last church, which was it was around like 500 or so. And I've helped do like load and load out churches where we would like bring all of our equipment in a trailer or in like a gymnasium, like an elementary school gymnasium. I've done that twice. And then now I think what's really sweet about church planting is the hunger that people have to see the growth of the church happen. Because literally everybody's volunteer. Like even our lead pastor, he's volunteer. There's no way we could pay anybody on staff. So they're really serving out of the desire of their heart rather than, and this is not to say that like people who are on paid church staff are only doing it for the money. I'm not saying that. I was one of those people who was a paid church staff member, and I didn't do it just for the money. But it's just different being a part of a church plant than being on a staff where you do get paid for it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And a lot of the people that I associate with, and that now I'm a member of the staff, or not the staff, but one of the leaders in the church, you could say. Most of the people that are there they don't even want any money for doing ministry. Yeah. They want no part of that, but
yeah,
they need the money. You know what I mean? Like because it
for
becomes
sure.
a time job.
For sure. I almost there was a point in this last position where it was almost harder to do my job because I was getting paid. It was such a weird, because I'm like, you would think like, man, that is the best job in the world. I get paid to lead people in worship. I get paid to like bring people closer to God. That's amazing. But it's still a business of people. Like we're still handling people. We're still dealing with people, and people are hard to deal with. And so it was, yeah, I don't know, man. Probably the last like 6 months of that position, I was like struggling, and we needed the money, so it's not like I was gonna be like, don't pay me. But I was struggling with the fact that like I was really just like clocking in, clocking out every Sunday morning, is what it started to feel like. And I think I was on a trajectory to burnout, and I've done that before. I've been there before, and so I think the Lord really guarded my heart and told me like, hey, you've been here before. Let's stop this before it gets too far. And so that's kind of why I stepped down. But yeah, it's a weird. I don't even know how to describe it. It's like I think we were almost created to serve out of the desire of our hearts and not for financial gain. But again, that's not to like put anybody down who is on staff at a church. Like, that's great.
No, that's one of the things that's good to hear from you, is because a lot of people think that everybody that's involved in the church is just money hungry and just grabbing at all the donations, because all the bad apples are always get glorified when it comes to that kind of stuff. And I forgot
sure.
where that guy was that had the mega church.
Joel Osteen.
Joel
Yeah,
Osteen
Joel
had the money
Osteen.
in the
Yeah.
toilet seat. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. He had hid it inside of the walls.
Yeah, that's right.
And then a plumber came because there was a leak, and they were like, okay. Yeah, it's good to hear that people actually, do it out of the kindness of their hearts still.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And like, dude, the church is a business. Like that's to flip it on the other side, like the church still needs to pay their power bill. Like, you know what I mean? Like we still need money. There are, mission focused churches like ours is one where we take a lot of the money that we make through tithes and offering, and we help support missionaries across the world, and like they're able to then like build churches in villages that would otherwise never even hear the name of Jesus. And it's like the money isn't just going into our pockets, like it's actually going towards things that like make a difference in people's lives. And one thing that I think about is like, even for my wife and I, like when we're tithing, first of all, tithing is biblical. It's a commanded practice. But beyond tithe and offering, or beyond tithe, you have the offering portion, which is when you do want to give to the church for things like that, where like I personally cannot fly across the world to go to, Bangladesh or something to preach the gospel. But my pocket can help with that. And I've been on a couple mission trips myself, international mission trips, and I've seen the impact of what helping, with financial means does for the world. So I guess a message to anybody who's like hurt by the church financially, like, yeah, there are some bad apples, but like 95% of the churches out there, they're not just taking your money and pocketing it, like they're actually using it for like good. And so I kind of give people the benefit of the doubt on that one.
Yeah. And that's the thing that a lot of atheists don't realize, is that a lot of the mission work and a lot of the help that goes on all over the world is from the church still. It's not from Red Cross. It's not from these big, nonprofit organizations where, the CEO makes $500,000 a year.
Yeah.
It's from churches that send their missionaries across the world to help all over the world.
One great example of that is Convoy of Hope. I don't know if you guys have heard of them at all.
Yeah.
But they are like a disaster relief organization. And when Hurricane Helene hit, they were like one of the first organizations on the scene. It wasn't a government agency. It wasn't, it wasn't Red Cross or some of the bigger companies or whatever. It was a church funded organization that was able to bring food and water to people who were, unfortunately affected by this disaster. Same with like the Ukraine war. Convoy of Hope was over there almost immediately. So they're just a great example of some of the like larger organizations in the world, where that money is going to something really good, really beneficial. So
yeah, we I'm gonna try and find the name of this organization, but we started one towards the end of the year that helps veterans in need who like with all kinds of things, toiletries, socks, clothing, all that stuff. It doesn't get that cold down here, but we donate like beanies and gloves and stuff. It's nice. But
last year it got down to 27, didn't it?
I don't remember. We did partner with what'd you say, Convoy of Hope?
Yeah.
At the church, so it's pretty cool to see hear you mention that, because they're doing some great things.
Yeah, there's tons of organizations just like that. There's one in Portland that the last church I was at, we partnered a lot with them, and they were able to we do this thing in Portland called I don't remember what it's called, but basically it's called Night Strike. And basically there's this big Portland bridge that like the whole state knows about it, and it's like one of the worst for homelessness. And this organization basically takes all this money that they get from church donations, and they go and like they feed all the homeless people, and they give them clothes, and they wash their feet like Jesus did, and they like give out like Bibles and stuff like that. And there's a lot more going on in the world that the church is benefiting than the church is hurting. And I think unfortunately people see the other side, and it's just not that bad. So
yeah, the rotten apples always get glorified, man.
Yeah,
they get they get all the press and everything, but people that go across the world get no recognition.
Yeah, and I don't think they want recognition. It's
exactly.
That's exactly it. They're doing it because they, the Bible doesn't say, come to me all who are weary and I'll give you rest only if you go across the world and give people food. Like it's the gospel is very simple. Like Jesus is the way, he's the truth, and he is the life, and only people can come to heaven through me. But it doesn't say through actions. And so there is no, if I give $500 to the church, then I'm gonna, be better saved than somebody else. So that's just not how it works.
That's a hard lesson for some of them to learn.
Yeah.
Is their whole one of the core principles, I believe, is it the Mormons or the Latter-day Saints? Work their way.
Yeah, it's through they've got like a like matriarchy system, where they do, if they do better, then somehow that means they're going to be in a better level of heaven or something.
A better level of heaven.
A better.
Yeah. So.
This isn't good enough. I want to get up here. You know what I mean?
I want the above.
Like heaven has a penthouse.
Yeah. I mean, there is parts of the Bible where it does talk about treasures in heaven, but I think their biggest thing is, and a lot of people think that like if you're just a good person, that means that you'll go to heaven, and that's just not true. That's not how it goes. And anybody who claims to be gospel preaching and Bible preaching, you haven't obviously read your Bible, because that's not what it says. It's those for those who claim Jesus as Lord of their life. Those are the people that will be saved and will enter the kingdom of heaven. That's it. There's nothing else. There is nothing else that you can do or say or act upon that will change that, or that will grant you access other than that. It's purely, if you believe in your heart that Jesus Christ is Lord, then you will enter into the kingdom of heaven. And it's so simple, and people make it way too complex.
That's right.
Yeah.
And Romans 10, it is also, along with that, it also says, confess with your mouth Jesus is Lord, believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, and you will be saved. So, very simple markers to make it to heaven, but so profound, very powerful, and they add a bunch of extra stuff on top of that the all the extra commandments that the Pharisees added to the law, so
it's just in human nature. You know what I mean? Even when humans have a book right in front of them that's telling them this is what you need to do, this is what you should do, here are all, and here's step-by-step guidance, and it's like, hold on, maybe we could go a little this way.
I mean, that's we were created as fallen beings. We were designed to question, and I think that's the beauty of free will and kind of the choice of faith, and having the choice to have a faith is like. And honestly, like, it's good to wrestle with God too. Like if you have questions and I don't think God would want people to just love him no matter what. Otherwise we wouldn't have free will. Like what's the point of all this? There's no point of any of this if it was just like, worship me forever no matter what. It was like, I love you enough to give you the choice. So it's challenging, man. It's the faith walk is not an easy one. It's a persecuted, promised one, but it is the best one. So
It is.
I've seen there's that guy Cliff. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Netchel or whatever. He goes to campuses. Well, he always they usually it happens every time he goes, but there'll always be somebody asking, how come? Why, if God is like good and like why does he send people to hell? And he always brings up like, look, if you want to live your life separate from God, you don't want anything to do with God. He's not going to force you to be in eternity with him when you die. So you would go to a place completely absent from God, and
exactly, yeah. Hell, people think that hell is just this like fire and brimstone, like a fire that which, I mean, Revelation talks about the descriptions of hell, but it is also a place that is completely absent of the presence of God. Like nothing good exists in hell. So like if you are living a life that is completely apart from anything good and completely apart from anything God, then like he loves you enough to allow you to continue to live that way. And that's where free will comes in. So it's a really hard thing to explain to people, and I think that's why oftentimes bad things happen to good people and good things happen to bad people, because like the enemy will use your success and your fame and your popularity and your wealth and all that stuff to if he can convince you that you have this amazing life that you don't need God, then he doesn't even need to really do anything. He doesn't need to make your life horrible, because there would be no reason to follow Christ if that was the case. So
yep. In Matthew 5, it pretty much explains that God makes the sun rise on the bad and the good. He causes the rain to fall on the just and the unjust.
Yep. So
yeah.
I don't know if you ever heard this. I can't remember the guy's name, but there was a testimony I watched on YouTube, and it was of a guy who basically he was going down a really bad path. Started off when he was a child and everything, right? He was like stealing from people, robbing people. And at one point, he decided to join the military. And during that process of wanting to join the military, he decided to change. He changed his mind basically, and the recruiter came to his house and convinced him to go into the Navy. And so he went into the Navy, and that's when he started like dealing big weight. Like he was pushing weight for drugs. He got stationed out in California, and he was just pushing heavy weight. And during that process, he lost a package. He was going through the postal service and lost a package. And he got so hung up on this package, he thought someone had stole it from him. And he was talking to his girlfriend at the time, and his girlfriend had family that was out in Haiti. And they were doing like the Wiccan shit, and the voodoo stuff. And he was like, we're going to go see your family. They're going to tell me who stole this package. And the whole time they were there, he went to Haiti and was talking with his girlfriend's family and like this voodoo priest and everything. And they were telling like everything about his past. But he didn't realize at the time that the enemy can, sees your past, sees what was going on, but they can't tell you the future. And so they were trying to figure out, like, he was trying to figure out who stole his package, but they weren't telling him. And he just basically dug into it so deep, and his life was going great, but he just wanted more and more. And the second he finally started turning to Christ, and his whole testimony goes into it, but the second he turned to Christ, everything just started going to shit. Like he was just getting attacked left and right, and it kind of says a lot about what you're talking about. Like the good things happen to bad people, bad things happen to good people,
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's persecution promised. I'm trying to think of what part of the gospel that is. I believe it's in Matthew somewhere, where Jesus promises that you'll be persecuted for following him. And that's literally what happened to the disciples with the Pharisees. So it's a narrow road. It's a difficult road, but it's one worth living for sure. So,
I think you're right. I think it is Matthew.
Yeah.
But it's because he talks about like fear, like in this life you will face tribulation, but fear not, for I've overcome the world, or something along those lines.
Yeah. I didn't know we were going to church tonight. This is great.
Yeah. Right.
Hey, us either, man. This is amazing.
A pleasant surprise.
Right.
This podcast can go in any direction.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
My question is, do you know anything about the Book of Enoch?
Man, I know. I studied a little bit when I was in college, because we talked a lot about like non-canonical stuff. But yeah, I'll be honest, I don't know a whole ton about it.
Okay.
I know that there's like stories of Jesus and stuff in it, and like other things, but I just haven't focused a whole lot on stuff that's not canon, because that's like being a pastor, like that's kind of stuff that I needed to focus on. But
yeah, me and my wife just bought the Book of Enoch, and we're gonna start reading it. So
I'm interested in the parts about the fallen angels and the Nephilim.
Yeah,
so
I can't wait to get to that part.
There's like forbidden knowledge that was like taught to mankind from these men of renown. The Bible calls them renown, and partially it's believed that's partially why the earth was flooded, because there was wisdom that wasn't meant for man to know. And the other part being corruption of the DNA.
Yeah, that's super interesting stuff to get into. I just haven't.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. That's just not something not that it's like bad or anything, but I think you have to be really careful with that. Only because, the canon Bible, states in Roman or Revelation about, if anybody were to add or subtract from these words, that would go against heaven. And the Book of Enoch is cool, and like there's a couple other books that I think are non-canon that have stories that aren't necessarily bad stories. They're just not canon, and so I don't know. I just haven't really focused on them.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting to talk about, though.
Yeah. So in the introduction of the Book of Enoch, it said that the Book of Enoch was originally in the Ethiopian Bible, which is one of the earliest Bibles, and eventually it got taken out by around 500 AD. They took it out.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
interesting.
I don't know why we haven't made it that far into it. It was just the first couple pages that we read.
Wasn't that right around the Quran when that was written?
Well, don't quote me on the 500 AD, because, but but that is around. I think it was 550 when Muhammad was supposedly born, something like that.
And born in we could get into it, but
Nah.
I don't want to misquote or whatever.
For sure.
I don't know much about.
I'm just an electrician, dude. You know what I mean?
That's funny.
I know some very intelligent people that they are into apologetics and everything, and they know so much about biblical, canon and history and genealogies, and they spend a fair amount of time studying the Quran and like Buddhist teachings and different.
Dude, genealogy and like numerics. Have you ever studied the numerics of the Bible? It's insane.
Like the
Like
Hebrew lettering and stuff, and like Greek. And all
yeah, like well, no, I'm talking about like if you look through like how many times a certain word is written or how many times a certain thing happens, and like specific numbers in like prophecies in the Old Testament, how they tie to the New Testament, and like the prophecy of Jesus Christ and all that stuff. It's crazy. Like
yeah.
that's a whole like 6-hour podcast right there. Just talk about numerics and the study of numbers and stuff. But yeah, it's for me personally, like it's really fun to talk about that stuff. But what's kind of kind of gives me peace about everything is that ultimately, like you could give someone, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one goes to the Father except through me, and that purely alone, is all you really need, which is great. And then all the other stuff is just an added benefit.
Paul, would Paul write that he's convinced that nothing can separate us from the love of God, which is very encouraging and comforting, especially in these dark times. But this is pretty cool. Once you mentioned about the numerology or whatever it's called, you've probably seen this, the map of all the cross references. So just thought I'd share that again. It's like 60,000 something, I think.
Yeah. The Bible, the canon Bible has more. Gosh, I just watched a video. I was also in youth ministry at my last church, so we did this series on studying the Bible and stuff. But the canon Bible has like 500 times more documentation than any other historical event ever. It's crazy. When people are like, oh yeah, prove to me that the Bible, is written and true since day one. It's like, man, there's so much evidence out there as far as like documents and just recorded history about Jesus and like how Jesus is in like every religion. Jesus isn't like the God figure in every religion, but like Jesus exists and he existed, and like even atheist historians, they recognize that Jesus was a historical figure, and even the Romans, through Roman history, they recognize that Jesus was a historical figure and that Jesus was an impactful figure in the Roman Empire. And it's so obvious that like all this stuff is true. It's like it's kind of like that saying, like it takes more faith to believe. Like, have you guys heard the analogy of the watchmaker? Like if you you can't just put like all these parts of a wristwatch together in a brown paper bag without it being assembled, shake it up, and then boom, you take a watch out and it's made. Like someone had to have made that watchmaker. So it takes more faith to believe that the watch just assembled itself than to believe that a watchmaker existed to make the watch. It's the same exact thing. So.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, if you look at like, DNA, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure everyone comes from the same maternal line. Like there is a actual, they call like Eve, to where everyone's maternal line traces back to one person, which the Bible was written long before we knew anything about DNA.
Yeah,
for sure.
Long before we knew anything about DNA. And so, I mean, that's one of the big things is just look at that. Like number one, we all trace back to one maternal line.
The thing that really blew my mind when I learned was that Islamic or Muslim people believe that Christ existed, that his teachings, that he was a prophet, and his teachings are true. The only thing that they don't believe in is that he died on the cross and resurrected and then ascended to heaven. What they say is that he just ascended to heaven. The thing that really blew my mind is when I learned that when the end times come, even in Islam, they believe that Christ is going to come down and save the world. I never knew that. And I never heard that in any church that I ever went to.
Yeah.
And this was like a couple months ago. Remember I was talking about it?
That's right.
And it like blew my mind. I'm like, so 2 out of the 3 major religions in the world say that Christ is coming back and is going to save the world.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like
Also, like I'd rather believe that and be wrong than not believe it and be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
Like,
There's actually a YouTube video I watched, and it's of a couple that lives in I believe Israel, right? And they actually found the tomb. There's apparently like the tomb of the 2 of the people that were there that persecuted Jesus. You know, they found like their tomb, and they were going because they were going through the land that I can't remember what they called it, but it's basically like a giant cemetery that Judas used.
Oh, the necropolis or something.
With the money he got from basically from selling out Jesus. Like the after he killed himself, they used the shillings that he had to buy this land, and that's where like the common folk would be buried, you know. And they had, while looking for that and looking for that land, they had actually found the tomb where 2 people were. I can't remember who it was, but yeah, there's like this whole YouTube video, which again goes back to it's all history. You know, it all goes back and traces back.
Josh, can you pull up our X?
Yes.
Because I don't know how long ago. I know this year they were doing some work in a prison, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember the story correctly, but they were doing work in a prison, and apparently there was like a whole chamber underneath of this prison. And I tweeted about it. Go down some, and they basically found an inscription that said Jesus is king. That dates back, I think. I keep going down. No, keep going. Right there.
This is it. Earliest Jesus is king inscription found. Deemed yeah,
and I think it was underneath of a prison in Israel somewhere, but don't quote me on that. It was
that's crazy.
Yeah, ad blocker.
And they never would have found it unless they were doing this construction.
Look at that.
Dude, all I saw on the right was Zuckerberg seeks a role in Trump's reformation or something.
Yeah.
That's funny.
But no, the YouTube channel I was talking about, they it's this couple that go around and they actually go to all these like biblical sites. Like they went to this site of where David slayed Goliath. They went to they actually found the stairs that Jesus walked down to the pool to heal. Like they go to like all these biblical sites and everything. It's really cool. I'll try to find their YouTube channel, but yeah, they go to all these sites and actually see them in Israel.
Yeah. This is under a prison in Megiddo, and it says that it's said to be the first physical proclamation of Jesus Christ as God. And it was apparently discovered in 2005.
Oh, okay.
I think
I'm a little late,
but I guess, but like now it's been like made public, I assume. Where it's been discovered that all this other stuff was there, but dubbed the Megiddo mosaic, the 581-foot artifact was originally underneath the floor of the Megiddo prison in Israel in 2005, after which it was excavated in pieces by the Israel Antiquities Authority over the course of 4 years. But yeah, man, and declared Jesus Christ as God before Christianity became part of the Roman Empire. Oh,
Wow.
it is, very awesome. And they're saying this is one of the greatest or the greatest discovery since the Dead Sea Scrolls. So
Yeah.
that's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, that's sweet.
Yeah.
I love the trajectory of this podcast, by the way. It's been really good. Usually it's a lot more degenerate than this. That's why we started getting guests all the time, because we just always ended up talking about politics and tuck options every single day.
Yeah.
Why don't you explain what a tuck option is?
You tuck your penis and your gun.
You know,
Hey, you can help us tuck our guns, and Target helps us tuck our penis.
yeah. I can definitely help you tuck. Yeah. we can help you tuck something that rhymes with Glock.
Okay, I found the YouTube channel. It's let's see, Sergio and Rhoda in Israel, and yeah, they do a lot of cool sites. You should definitely check out their YouTube channel.
I'm gonna share the link in the chat for anybody.
Yeah, Sergio and Rhoda in Israel. It's really cool. They go to a lot of like really cool sites and kind of like explore them.
That's cool. Did they ever go to
the Temple Mound?
No. Noah's Ark in Turkey?
I'm not sure. I have to see.
Or they just stay in Israel?
I think they mostly just stay in Israel. But yeah, they just check out like a lot of the historic sites. Gideon's Cave in Spring, they went there. Let's see.
Text me that, dude. I wanna watch it.
Yeah, I got you. The Pool of Bethesda, where Jesus healed the paralytic, they went there. That's the one I was talking about, where they found the stairs he walked down. Pre-flooding structure hiding under the Sea of Galilee. Like, they go to all these places. It's really cool. Yeah, you definitely should check it out.
Another thing that I heard that they just discovered, they found chariot wheels and footprints in the Red Sea. Apparently there's there's a certain section where there's like a sand dune it's less shallow. It's more shallow than the rest of it. And on that walkway they found chariot wheels and footprints and like armor of the time of Moses, which is like, it's like what else do you need? You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's crazy,
right?
That's
so like crazy. Wow. Yeah.
Well,
how much time do you got, Colin?
I'm good.
Okay.
However long you guys want to go, I'm chilling.
So to get a little bit back onto holsters and everything.
Whoa. We're not okay.
To get a little bit back on the holsters, so you said you do concealed carry holsters and everything too. So one of the issues I have is I'm a bigger guy, right? I'm a hefty dude, you know, and
he jiggles when he runs.
Yeah, you know, I got a little extra flump. So I was always wondering, because you don't really see a lot of like holsters for like bigger guys, especially for me. Like, I like to appendix carry. I found one holster from Fat Tack I've been using. It's a good holster. But do you make anything like that to where it kind of like sits a little deeper to help with that?
Yeah, so I've actually got a couple examples here I can show you guys. So we kind of developed. So I also carry appendix. That's like my main position. There's kind of tactical reasons for that we can go into, but the main reason, or the main issue that I found with appendix carry is the kind of, so this is one of our previous designs of what we call the Nomad appendix rig. And a lot of the standard appendix carry, like industry standard appendix carry holster designs, have a paracord joiner or some kind of elastic joiner or something in the middle. That's what kind of gives it this flex right here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the issue is that it doesn't have any flex in this plane. And so we developed a new system that uses a mesh. And so you have this like really twisty mesh that goes in that like kind of general industry standard direction, but then you also have a twist. And so what that does is that allows the gun and the magazine to kind of move independently of each other. So as your stuff is getting in the way, it'll push around each kind of part of the setup in different ways, rather than like, you know, it all moving at once. The other solution that we found with this is, because there's a mesh, all of these holes, you can actually adjust the ride height of everything independently too. So if you wanted to adjust the magazine and you wanted to make that ride deeper, you could do that without adjusting the firearm side, or vice versa. If you want to adjust the firearm and make that ride deeper, you can do that without adjusting the magazine. So like, let's say you didn't want your mag to be super deeply concealed, but you did want your gun to, because it'd be a bit more comfortable. You could do that independently from the magazine. So that's kind of our solution to that. It's also super modular. That's why we call it the Nomad, because you can actually take the holster off and just run the holster and the mag separately from each other if you wanted to. But yeah, that's kind of our solution to that. We also do like these strut type clips, where you can adjust the ride height up and down. But ultimately, kind of what I tell people is like, you're carrying a piece of steel in your waistline.
Yeah.
It's not going to be very comfortable. You kind of just have to get used to it. And all, you know, the guys that are claiming like, oh, it's the most comfortable holster in the world, unless you're carrying like some super small 380, it's going to be uncomfortable on some level. Like that's just the way it is. So I kind of tell people like, you just have to get used to it. If you're wearing it every single day, like, you're going to get used to that feeling of having something pushing up against your appendix or your side or wherever you're wearing it. So we're trying our best to innovate and make it a little bit easier, but like, innovation in this industry is really, really difficult, because there's just been, I mean, the Nomad is just a branch off of the sidecar that T-Rex did, because they're the ones that pioneered the sidecar. And so now you have all these companies that are coming out with sidecar style designs that have an extra mag caddy. So innovation is really, really hard. But we're trying our best to break through that a little bit.
I might have to look into that holster. I was talking with Rob the other day. Actually, we were out fishing and stuff. I like to wear sweatpants and just slum it and everything and still carry. So mine doesn't do a bad job with like folding over and stuff, but I've seen a lot to where it's like the what is it, the Filster Enigma or something like that, and then another one that they designed for like carrying like sweatpants or like, you know, shorts, like, you know, like like gym shorts and all that. You have anything that like plans on coming out with stuff like that, or are you kind of just sticking just to the holsters?
Yeah, we're not really going to be doing anything like the Enigma. That's such a unique piece that, like, I think anybody who's trying to replicate the Enigma is, you know, it's borderline intellectual property theft. But we do offer 2 beltless carry options, which are the Ulti Clip which is like
wow.
a spring steel clip that like uses compression. A lot of ladies wear these because they're good for like leggings or yoga pants, or if they don't wear a belt with their jeans. And then we also have something called the fabric clip, which is, I don't think I have one here, but you can find it on the website. It's a like little plastic tooth that like interlocks with the fabric, so it actually like locks into the fabric when you're pulling on it. And then you don't need a belt for that. So yeah, there's options.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, because I feel like that's a lot of big issues you see with like people not being able to like wear sweatpants and stuff. And I think it's cool that nowadays like we're getting a lot more options to be able to, be in your comfy pants and still keep that gat on you.
Yeah, and I honestly like there's a company called Arrowhead Tactical. I don't know if you guys have seen them. They make some good concealed carry comfort clothes. I personally wear a Core Essentials ratcheting EDC belt. That's my everyday carry. And if I'm wearing sweatpants and I'm going to the grocery store or something, I just take that off and I just throw that around my waist because it ratchets so you can get it really tight. That's a great solution. So if you're someone who does wear a belt on a regular basis, but like every once in a while wants to wear sweats or basketball shorts or whatever, I would recommend getting an EDC belt that can ratchet, because then you could just take that off of your jeans or whatever you wear that's not the comfort clothes and just throw that around your waist, and it works just fine without having to spend the money on, Arrowhead Tactical, for example. They're great company, great gear, but it can be kind of pricey. So
yeah, I actually have the Core Essentials belt too. I love it. It's really nice.
Yeah, it's great. You can literally just like I think you had the monoblock on that holster that you showed. You can just slap that on your Core Essentials belt underneath your sweatpants. That's what I do when I go out. So
yeah,
and it doesn't really affect the comfort at all.
Yeah.
After a while, after you carry for a certain amount of time in the exact same spot, the nerves kind of die around it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So that's when it gets comfy. So just suck it up for like, a month.
Yeah.
And then eventually you'll still feel it. It's just it won't be as uncomfortable.
And like your choice of firearm is definitely a factor in that too. Like there are so many, options for like more comfortable guns to carry. Like kind of just depends on what your goals are. Like I personally carry Glock 43X, but I run the Shield Arms S15 mags. So that gives me 15 plus 1. So it's almost a Glock 17 capacity and a subcompact frame, which is mint. So it's super comfortable, but I'm still getting a decent capacity. And if you run an appendix rig, you're getting 30 rounds in a subcompact frame. So
how do you like the 43X? How does it feel in your hand? Because that's what I carry.
I like it. I think it kind of fits my hand perfectly. I also use goon tape. I wrap goon tape around all of my pistol grips, even on my ARs. And so I don't know if you guys have used goon tape at all. It's I might have. Yeah, I do.
Is it like grip tape? Like
it's just grip
skateboard?
tape.
Okay.
So it's like a 1-inch grip tape that you just wrap around your pistol grip. And what you can do is, because I personally don't like the stock Glock lowers, like how they feel. So if you take some of this stuff, then which we're actually going to be selling at some point. If you take some of this stuff, you can actually like wrap it around the grip, and then you can like bulge it in certain areas on the grip to make it fit your hand better. And it's great because you can take it off and like redo it, or like if you wanted to do like a tan against a black or something, you could do that because they come in different colors. So definitely recommend. But yeah, as far as size goes, the 43X fits my hand perfectly. So
yeah, the problem I have when I practice drawing and presenting is, and especially when I actually shoot it, it feels like it's just too small. It feels like it's doing this in my hand because it's so thin.
True. Yeah, it's definitely not like compared to like a 17 or something. It's like you have to definitely get used to it, get the reps on it.
I'm gonna try that
Yeah.
grip tape and see if that helps. Because
Definitely try it.
when we went training with Josh, I was shooting my 17, and I'm like, man, this thing is freaking awesome. It fit nice in my hand and everything, and I don't know. I started thinking maybe I should get a G19.
Or you could get a 45, because that's the same grip length as a 17 with a shorter barrel, like a 19. Mm-hmm. So you have the capacity of a 17 with the like it's more comfortable like the 19 is. So that's if I got another pistol, if I got another Glock, I'd probably go with the 45, just because of that reason. But I have two 43Xs now and a 17. My wife carries the other 43X, which is kind of nice because then we have like cross-compatible mags, you know. So if we ever got into a gunfight together, we'd be able to like
relationship goals.
Hey, babe.
Yeah.
I've been really wanting to kind of switch over to SIG a little bit for the 365. I've been looking into that. But if I also get another Glock, I keep saying I want the 19X because I have a 19. That's what I carry is the 19. I want the 19X, but the issue is I don't know how I would feel about carrying with the longer grip, you know, because it's got the 17 size grip and the 19 size slide, but I don't know how I'd feel about carrying that, you know, having that extra, you know, a little bit sticking out.
Yeah, again, that just comes down to like you kind of need it. There's so many factors into it, right? Like one, you have to be aware that you're carrying a full framed pistol, so you have to just decide that you're going to get used to it, but then also choose your garment, you know, appropriately for that. Like there's so many guys that I've talked to who are like, yeah, I carry Glock 17 and your holster kind of sucks because like I'm just printing like crazy, and I'm like, well, dude, you're wearing like a dry fit shirt. Like you have to wear something a little bit baggier
or cotton.
Yeah, like don't wear anything that's super clingy and like that. It's kind of a whole mindset shift when you decide to carry a gun. Like you really have to like if you care about printing or you know whatever, then you really do have to be conscious about what you choose to wear. And that's all dependent on the size of your pistol and all that stuff. I've heard that the macro. The 365 macro is a great pistol.
I've actually held one. I haven't shot one yet, but I've held one, and it's so comfortable.
Yeah, I have a buddy. One great thing about holster making is that since I get all these molds, I get to actually like hold the gun in my hand to like feel what it feels like, to know. And that's like one thing that I've like helped with my wife too, is like if she ever wants to get another gun, she can like hold the actual dimensional mock-up of it in her hand to see if it fits her hand well before we like go to the store and make a fool of ourselves asking for like 10 different guns to hold. So
yeah, that's a little cheat code there, huh?
Yeah.
Just start making holsters.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, because I was actually looking at getting the macro, and it like same thing. Yeah, it feels so comfortable in the hands.
Is that a subcompact?
Yeah, it's a little bit bigger than the XL, the P365 XL. I think it's classified as a compact.
Yeah.
In SIG standards.
I think it's similar to the macro, similar size to the 19.
Yeah.
I think it's a very similar size to the 19. Maybe slightly longer in the pistol grip. You know,
I think it's thinner though.
It is thinner. It's thinner, but I think it's slightly longer in the grip.
Well, let's look.
Yeah, I guess that's the best thing to do. You got the molds.
Yeah, it's like so this is the 19 and this is the macro.
Oh, so it is a little bit. It's a little thinner.
It's much thinner.
Definitely thinner, yeah.
It's like an eighth of an inch.
Yeah.
And then you have this profile. So it's about the same as the 19. The 19 is definitely a little bit bigger.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it feels really great in the hand.
Yeah.
But
So are they just training guns, or are they specially made for holsters?
these are specific for holster making.
Okay.
So this, you can see, this is a foam press mold. And you can tell because we're in the holster industry, we're called blue tape whores because we use so much blue tape. We probably use more blue tape than painters do, honestly. Because what you have to do is you have to like tape out the slide so that you don't get any like weird abrasiveness on the frame of the pistol. You have to, when you're putting blocking down, so like this mold has it built in for the controls, but most molds don't have that, and so you have to like actually take like a piece of like aluminum bar stock or something to tape down there so you make a channel for the controls. But these are made out of a like fiberglass something mixture, makes them fairly heat resistant, fairly pressure resistant. These are specifically folding tools only for vacuum pressing, so they're actually 3D printed. Which I just recently bought a 3D printer, so I'm actually able to make these myself, which is great. Saves me a bunch of money. But these are like they're better for folding tools. So when I say folding tool, that means like when the so this is a sheet of Kydex in its like raw natural state. When it's formed to the mold, you then have to heat the center of it, and then you fold that around the folding tool. And so these need to be like dimensionally perfect because you're essentially test fitting the holster with this. Because I don't have the money to have the real steel of every single gun in my shop. So, yeah.
So when you do the two different color one, do you put the two pieces of Kydex together first and then do that?
Yeah, so basically,
I don't know if you want to talk about that. I don't know if you know.
It's a known technique in the industry. So we take 2 layers. So a standard sheet of Kydex is 0.080 inches, and then the dual layered holsters are 2 layers of 0.060, which makes it 0.120, so fairly thick. And what we do is let's see, these heat presses back here, these like t-shirt presses, that's where we heat up the Kydex in. And you just tighten the pressure on the heat presses, and then you put the Kydex in there for like 5 times the length that you do a normal holster. And what that does is that performs a chemical bond between the 2 sheets of Kydex. Yeah. So then you take it out of the press, they're now 1 sheet of Kydex, and then you press it. Yeah.
Is there any like I can't think of the word, any advantages to having a double one, double Kydex one besides the single one, or is it just?
Yeah. Besides like the being able to customize it with colors, it's just more durable. It's not going to wear as much or as quickly, especially we do dual layer for the competition holsters. That's kind of the competition way. So that's what a dual layer holster looks like, and it's just much thicker, and it's built to withstand just more abuse, I guess. If you're running and gunning with one of these, it's not going to crack as easily. So, and we also do when we do offer the option to build thicker, like combat holsters. If you want it in a thicker Kydex, so that let's say you're getting in some kind of like weapons retention scenario, you don't want the Kydex to crack on you when you're like taking some dude to the ground. So,
I had another quick question. When I ordered my holster, I think you had a color of the month or something like that. I was wondering what color was that, because it was just a name.
It was the Recon Monsoon. So if you go on the website, there's a tab that says color options on the top of the website, and then there's a drop down that shows all the colors. So when you
I skipped over all that.
I went black.
Right.
Get it here. I'm trying to go to this training.
Yeah. So the color of the month, we choose sometimes it's a pattern that we have already on our website, but sometimes we pull one out that's not on our website as a specialty print, and we just make that free for the month. So November's color of the month was the Recon Monsoon, which is like an OD green topographical. I haven't decided what December's is going to be yet. One of my pro shooters, Eric, I think he was on the podcast at one point.
Yep.
He's actually the guy that connected us. He suggested doing like a battle Santa or something for December, which would be kind of cool. But I also, want to make sure it's one that people are actually going to want to use.
I thought it was pretty cool that you had like a color of the month and everything. Not like I never seen that on anyone else's,
So, so quick question, right? So can you do like custom colors? Because I want a holster. Okay, my daughter is obsessed with Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse, right? Can I get a custom Mystery Mouse Cthulhu holster?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like, what would that take to get a custom Mystery Mouse Cthulhu like holster, like with Mouse Cthulhu and it says like Mystery Mouse Cthulhu on it? You know?
So literally, so we outsource the custom prints to a company called H3 Customs. They're based out of California. Awesome guys. Jared's the owner over there, and he will. I kid you not. I will order a custom Kydex print, and 5 minutes later it's shipped. It's crazy, like a custom one. Like I'll send him an image of something, and he'll print it on Kydex and send it to me. So I've got a guy down there in California that if a customer sends me an image of anything, or if they want me to like design something for them, and I can get it printed on Kydex, and then we can make a holster out of it. So literally all you have to do, I think there's an option on the website for a custom print. If there isn't, then we can talk about it, but you just send me reference images or send me the exact image that you want to use, and then we can just put that on the holster. So.
All right, and I can get that on that one you were showing earlier with the sidecar, with the
mesh,
and everything. I can get that on that.
Yeah, you can get custom printed Kydex for any of our holster models.
All right. I'll start looking into that, and I'm probably hitting you up soon for that.
Sweet.
I'm trying to get that. I'm trying to get that Mystery Mouse Cthulhu holster. All right.
Heck yeah. That's awesome.
It's gonna be the slickest holster in town, man. I tell you.
That's kind of the side of the business that's still custom. We our as far as our firearm configuration offerings, it's not as custom as we used to be, but we still can do stupid, silly prints like that for if people want them. I had this one dude that wanted me to do like a penis camo, like it was like M81 sort of, but like if you zoomed in on it, it was just a bunch of penises. It was the stupidest thing. Like I could do that. So, and paying customers are paying customers. So whatever.
Slap a wiener on it.
Slap a dick on it.
Yeah.
That sounds up your alley, Austin.
Yeah. See, but if I had to choose between the two, all right, Mickey Mouse or fucking dick camo. The dick camo is very, very appealing, but if someone already has that, I don't want to take it away from them.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, when it comes to, on one hand, with regulation in firearms industry and innovation, what are your thoughts on the future of the firearms? Let's just say within the next couple of years. Do you have any thoughts about any new innovations or possible regulations?
that you would want to talk about?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't have a comment, you don't have to.
Like I was saying before, like we kind of live in an innovate or die culture, as far as like manufacturing goes. But like at the same time, it's almost like everything that could be created has been created, and so everybody's just making new versions of things. There are a couple things that I probably want to keep close to the chest tonight that we're thinking about doing. But yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot currently to look forward to. It's more of like for me personally, specifically in the holster game, like this is why you can't patent a holster. Like it's a piece of plastic wrapped around a gun. Like you really can't patent that. And so I'm just trying my best to see how I can be set apart as a company. I think the faith-based element is a part of that. One thing that we're looking towards in the future, which this actually might be a great opportunity to drop this. And I tease this on my Instagram page. In January, we are actually changing the brand name to Goliath Defense. And we're focusing heavily on kind of not going away from holsters. That's like still our bread and butter. But we really see a need, and we kind of talked about this a little bit before when we were talking about concealed carry. We really see that there's a need for people to not only have good gear, but to also be educated and trained properly when it comes to using that gear, but also when it comes to like just general self-sufficiency and self-defense, and like how to apply a tourniquet once you've now shot a person. I think it's I carry a tourniquet with me everywhere I go if I'm carrying a gun, because like I don't want to shoot somebody. My goal would be to be able to save the person that I just shot. Obviously, save the person that I'm wanting to defend. But if I'm gonna potentially have to shoot at somebody, I want to be able to render aid to them, or at least try to. And I think there's not a lot of people that know how to even unwrap a tourniquet. So stuff like that. Do people know how to garden their own gardens? Do people know how to grow their own food? That's kind of the direction that I'm not going to be, running like gardening courses or anything, but that's kind of the mindset. Like,
right?
I have a business partner who probably he kind of has the autism for that, so maybe he'll dive into a little bit more. But I think the way that we're going to be innovating is outside of the holster industry, because again, it's kind of like hit its plateau as far as like product innovation goes. So we're going to be trying to equip people. Our new slogan is going to be equip citizens and inspire change. And so our whole goal is to inspire people to become better versions of themselves. And this kind of falls in line with like faith based portion as well. We want people to become better versions of themselves, and through the use of our gear. Like we don't want to just like sell product. Like to be completely honest with you, money is nice and it's it's a benefit of this company, but I would rather know that I'm impacting people's lives by making them better for their family and like a better individual for their community. And if that means that our products or our services or education or whatever is a reason for that, I really don't care if I make money on that. Like I just want people to be better and get better. Because the root of the issues that we see in our world really comes down to the local level. Like if you have people that are bad people in your communities, then that community is going to be a bad community and is going to behave poorly, and that's going to expand to the county, and that's going to expand to the state, and it just becomes a kind of this like ripple effect. And so if we can start on the individual like self basis instead of like trying to make everybody else better, but like actually like turn inward and like make ourselves better, then that's when the world will change. And that's how we can impact people. And so we're trying to equip people with the means to do so. Specifically in the two-way tactical space. Like I'm not doing like, we're not doing like therapy or anything like that. Yeah. So it's like if we can train so another big goal of ours, and I have no idea when this is going to happen because like having capital to do stuff is expensive, and like I have a full-time job outside of this, and it's like I have a lot of goals in mind. One of the things that I want to do is have a place where people can come and take like pistol 1, 2, and 3 courses or stop the bleed courses. I am personally certified ABS stop the bleed, so I could teach those courses. I have people in my circles that can teach like EMR courses and stuff. We want to do like CHL courses, concealed carry courses, medical stuff. We want to offer nylon gear. We're actually working on a sling prototype right now that's going to be launching in January. But the whole goal is for people to become educated and better themselves with our product and equipment that we sell, just being like a catalyst for that, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because like I don't know, I don't know. It's almost like a ministry thing for me. Like I just want to see people grow and become better individuals. And like if I can, make people know that we're a faith-based company somehow and still preach the gospel through that, great. But I think the Bible also talks about people. The Lord's kindness will lead them to repentance. And so for me, I take that as instead of being like Bible thumping, like fire and brimstone preachers on the street corner of the big cities, if we just like love people and are good to people, then that kindness will then lead them to Christ. Mm-hmm. And using that same filter, I think that can be done through the two-way tactical industry as well. And so it's kind of the same idea. Like if we can just help people become better individuals, then and use our gear to do that, then that's my goal at the end of the day. And if we make money off of it, great. Mm-hmm. Obviously that's a benefit. But if we don't, then I know that we're impacting people in ways that I won't even understand. So,
well, if you need a botanist, Rob's got that autism. Just to let you know, that man can grow some things, man.
Good to know. Good to know. Yeah, so it's kind of it's not something that I've really fully that I think has fully come to fruition yet. I just know that we're meant to do something a little bit bigger. And I believe that God has put this company on my heart and put this platform in front of me for a reason. And I think it's more than just to sell plastic. I think it's to actually, inspire people to better themselves and change. So.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was just wondering, how did you come up with the company name ANCHORPOINT?
Good question. So ANCHORPOINT, this actually relates back to when I was in youth ministry at a church that I was working at in Albany. We had a small group, like high school boys group, named ANCHORPOINT, and it all stemmed from when you sin. The term to sin is actually an archery term to miss the mark. So when you're shooting a bow, and you shoot at the target and you miss the mark, that's called a sin in archery. Now, when you are pulling the bow back, this position on your cheek is called your anchor point. If you're too far forward or too far back, you're off your anchor point. This is the anchor. So as long as you are on your anchor point, more often than not, you're going to hit the mark. And so the idea of it kind of stemmed from that, and like being a faith-based company, it's just me. Being a faith-based company, I really wanted to like kind of have that little hidden meaning in there to like spark up conversation.
Pretty cool.
But thank you. It also just came from like, you know, I as the owner and just as an individual, like I want to make sure that I'm like staying at my anchor point throughout my entire life so that I can, you know, avoid sin and hit the mark. So it's kind of a cheesy story, but that's where it came from. And then Goliath Defense.
Cool.
Thanks, man. Goliath Defense is based off of the story of David and Goliath. And it directly has implications towards what I was talking about before, which was helping individuals become better individuals, because then they can better the like society as a whole. So in the story of David Goliath, David is the little guy and Goliath is the big guy, which we could, you know, if we call the big guy society and like just everybody in general, and then David is the little guy, which is us. If we can try our best to, you know, take what we have and muster all the effort that we can possibly muster to take out the big guy, then that's, you know, that's the goal. And so it's not in defense of Goliath, it's actually defense against Goliath, is where the concept came from.
That's cool too, man.
Yeah,
that's very clever. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. So it's really to equip and train the Davids of the world to be able to take out the Goliaths of the world. Yeah. And I also thought Goliath Defense just sounded like a big company. So I was like, yeah, that's sweet. And then eventually we want to get an FFL and have a gun store here in Albany, and so it'd be Goliath Defense Firearms, which sounds dope.
It does, yeah.
You know, it would be really slick
PDF.
if you guys started selling like old Shepherd slingshots. You know, like the slingshots that
Like that.
That would be cool.
You know, and a holster for that slingshot.
That would be sweet. That's a great idea, actually.
Or your logo be the man swinging it, you know, like this.
Yeah, we are going to be dropping some merch in January, where it's going to be like a tactical version of David with the slain head of Goliath in his hand and like nods on and rifle slung over his shoulder. Cool. But we're dropping a slim rifle sling in January, and we're calling the GS1, Goliath Slayer 1. And it's kind of the idea is, and it's going to be, we thought about calling it the Balearic, which is the actual name of the slingshot that David used, which would be kind of cool. But then we were like, that'd be kind of a hard product name to use.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, if you do start selling the slingshots and a holster, like a Kydex holster for the slingshot, I'll probably be the first person to fucking buy one. All right.
Dude, that's such a good idea.
He's writing that down.
That
Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah.
Good. My AirPods died. So.
It's all good. It happens to me all the time. But yeah, make sure you write that down. Take a note of it. All right.
Yeah, dude, that's a great idea. I better send you an NDA. I'll reference your name in the description of the product. And get like
it was come up on the 2A Brotherhood podcast.
As referred on the 2A Brotherhood podcast on
the genesis of this.
You don't have to name me specifically, all right? I don't need the glory, all right? You don't have to name me specifically, but just Make a note of that. I'll probably be the first one to buy one. All right.
It's only going to come up every time we have a podcast. You're going to mention something about remember the time I came up with the sling idea?
Or we'll never have a podcast ever again together.
I'm gonna pull it out of my. I'm gonna pull the slingshot out of my holster and be like, "So guys, Mike can still carry weapon of choices."
That's awesome.
I like the idea of the tactical version of David for the merchandise.
We actually thought about doing like multiple versions of David. So like it'd be like a modern day soldier with like NVGs and a rifle slung over their head or over their shoulders. And then we could do like a hunting version of David for the hunters out there. We could do like a gray man version of David. So basically different like caricatures of David with the slain head of Goliath. And it would be like a specialty sticker or something. Like every holster gets a sticker for free in the holster, but you don't know which one you're going to get.
Yeah, collect the whole set.
You can do like the NBA logo.
Do the like a ninja or like a samurai version of David.
And that sticker you put in the holster was cool too.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, the Don't Die one?
Yeah, that was cool.
That's from my buddy Brady Langdon. He owns don'tdie.jpg is his tag on Instagram. And he's like a graphics designer. And he designed that for me back when Trump got shot. And we basically hopped right on that. We were like, dude, it's crazy. Basically, I called him. I was like, bro, did you see what just happened? And he's like, yeah, I'm designing a sticker for it already.
I wish we had merch at that time, man, because him pumping that fist up all over TikTok, all over Instagram, everybody was just pumping the shirts out.
You should come out with the Don't Die holster and make that color of the month.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you should have done that. Like make it as a color of the month. Don't Die holster.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there were so many companies like Operational Industries. I don't know if you guys have seen them before, but they came out with a shirt that said "You missed," and it was Trump had like laser beam eyes.
Yeah.
They were like the originator of that. But
so how does it work with? Can you copyright those images? Like the people because I've seen different companies make the same shirt. Like the 9mm 45 ACP 5.56 223 is faster. It's always faster than 911. I don't know if you've ever seen that shirt. I have one of them, and I've seen it on like 100 different companies. Is that just like a thing that's out there that you could just use?
Yeah, so it's what's probably happening is it's all black label stuff. So what's my guess is that there's somewhere online where there's a designer who is selling the file for that for like $3 or something, and so you buy the file, and when you buy the file, you buy the rights to use it, and then you can put it on your merch. It's usually how that goes.
It's like the Hawk Tool.
Josh, make a note of that.
Like the Hawk Tool girls trying to trademark the saying Hawk Tool for any merch.
Dude, there was a church that bought the copyright to the term worship leader, and it's freaking crazy. But it just blew up the internet, and like basically any church ever that ever used the term worship leader was now like potentially being sued by this one church who bought the rights to the term worship leader. Yeah, it's crazy. Copyright law is wild.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, man. I would like the like an engraving of like you could pick your favorite Bible verse or something to and like put it on the side of the holster or something like that. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
You can have that one for free.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Eventually, I'd like to do fiber laser, so I can actually like literally engrave onto the holsters. I used to have a diode laser that I would use, but if you use a diode laser on plastic, it creates CO2 gas, which is no. So yeah,
That's a felony, right?
to make CO2 gas.
No.
Just do it in a well-ventilated area.
Yeah. Where'd you come up with the idea for the Gideon chest rig?
Honestly, my buddy was like, "Hey, I need a holster for hunting," and I looked up how to make a pancake style. Well, actually, it came from. So I used to have this one holster model called the Outlander, which was a pancake style holster. I have a Gideon right here, so I'll just show you guys. It's literally a 2-piece holster with belt clips on either side. And so it's like just a holster that tucks close to your body. Pretty popular style, super annoying to build, takes forever. That's why I don't offer it anymore. And that's also a foam press exclusive holster. So when I cut all my foam pressing stuff, I just run away with it. So the Gideon is the only foam pressed holster that I do still. And the reason is because the profit margins are insane on these. But yeah, it's basically my buddy was like, "Hey, I need a chest rig for hunting, and I don't really want to carry one on my hip because I bush in trees and stuff, and like when it just gets in the way." And so I took the Outlander and basically just changed the whole pattern. This is kind of an older version of it. The Gideon looks a little bit different now. But I took the Outlander and changed the whole pattern to be able to have like multiple positions on the holster so you can like cant it and have different angles. And then there's a wholesaler that I go through currently to get these straps. And so it's literally just attached to a pancake style holster. So that just sits right there and then like goes in front of, goes behind a bino harness, and super clean, super slick, easy to access. Just another need for people, and especially in this area, the Pacific Northwest, there's a lot of hunters up here, and so I saw that there's a decent market for it. I get a lot of orders for those at gun shows. A lot of local guys will buy those, so because they can actually try them on and see how they fit.
That's cool.
That's very nice.
All right, I think it's time
Go
to end this thing. Has been an awesome podcast, 2.5 hours, and
we would love it if you would join us again too.
Yeah,
absolutely. I would also say before we leave, we are doing a Black Friday sale right now through Monday. It's 25% off the entire store. And for all of the 2AB podcast listeners, if you use the code AB, then you get an extra 5% off. So
right.
30% off until Monday.
We're saving money, guys.
I'm gonna make a clip of that by tomorrow morning, and I'll put it up on TikTok and on Instagram.
Nice.
If you send it to me, I'll put it up on X.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Go check out ANCHORPOINT Holsters.
You want to shout out your companies and everything first? I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's okay. Go ahead, Colin.
Oh, me?
Where can they find you? Yeah.
So website is anchorpointholsters.com. We're primarily on Instagram. That's where like most of our interaction is. We do have a Facebook page, but it's not super active. So if you guys want to follow along with the company and like what we're doing, go to Instagram at ANCHORPOINT Holsters. We do have a TikTok, but it's about our 10th account now.
Yeah.
Our accounts. So I honestly screw TikTok. Don't follow us on TikTok because
they're a little touchy there.
Yeah. So
yeah, you guys have it, and all this stuff I'll put in the description and for you guys so you can come back to it. But we'll be posting clips and stuff and shouting you out, hyping you up. So, but yeah, I'll be praying for Goliath Defense, for ANCHORPOINT Holsters, you and your family. Yeah, man. thank you so much again for coming on. And
Yeah,
with
thank you
us.
guys so much for asking. I'm glad we got connected. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm going to send a text message to Eric. Tell him thank you.
Hey, after we get off here, I actually have a question for you once we get off alive.
Okay.
If you don't mind
So-
sticking on.
Real quick, everybody, go follow ANCHORPOINT Holsters on Instagram. Follow 2A Brotherhood _ podcast on Instagram. 2AB on Rumble. 2A Brotherhood podcast. There's so many of them on YouTube. On TikTok, go follow us on all this stuff. We have to be. TikTok is very touchy, and apparently Instagram too, because right now we have 4
YouTube.
videos.
YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube too. But on Instagram, we have 4 videos from the Eric podcast that are being censored for them.
That doesn't
just
surprise me at all.
for nothing though. And it's also on Instagram. They're just like Eric was just talking about muscle memory, and they're like, "Oh no. People can't know about this."
I got flagged for child sexual exploitation one time and got my account removed for like a week. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's just ridiculous. People are just out to get this industry, and yeah.
That is a crazy accusation.
I know.
Right?
Like,
Was there a kid in the video? Or was it
shit'll
just
get
a
you-
gun laying there?
I think Terran Tactical showed up at some point.
That shit will get you stabbed in prison.
Yeah, dude, for real. That is hilarious that Eric's stuff was the stuff that got you guys flagged, because like
Yeah.
of course it's Eric's. 'Cause he's-
And then the video that I posted of us training with Josh Morgan, that's been flagged too. And I'm like, come on, man. You could see that we're in a freaking range, dude.
yeah. Dude, I posted on TikTok a reading of some scripture, and they didn't remove the video, but they muted it. Like,
Jeez,
come on.
man.
That's
That's
ridiculous.
messed up.
Anyway.
Ridiculous.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Colin, again. Remember, ANCHORPOINT holsters, they have Black Friday specials. If you use 2AB, you get an extra 5% off.
Throw him your money, guys.
We did.
So I'll be in the description on YouTube and Rumble and X. So, alrighty. Well, thanks again, and I'm gonna play a little outro, and then we'll be clear.
Okay, bye.
All right. See y'all next week.
Thank you for watching. Like the video.
Same time, same
Subscribe.
place.
Follow.
Love you guys.
Okay,
Leave a
bye.
Once you get into that, you start getting into a situation, the slippery slope, where all of a sudden you're going to really violate the Second Amendment. I don't want to do anything to violate the Second Amendment. To me, the Second Amendment is very important. I love this country. Thank you. Thank you very much.